Okay, folks, I guess we're here. Sorry, there was some confusion, but now we're fine. So, thanks for joining in. Um, yeah, I watched this WWE Day One. First of all, Happy New Year to everybody. And obviously, this is going to be a pro wrestling rant for pro wrestling fans. I guess I'm going to have to go back and edit this video a little bit because we had a false start. But I will do that. I will edit the video, blah, blah, blah. So, anyway, what do I have to say? Um, I didn't watch the show in live time, and I just full discrepancy. Anything in an event is always better if you watch it live, and I didn't watch it live. So, did I get spoiled? Yes, I did. I try to avoid spoilers, but I check. I made the mistake apparently of checking my email, and I get a Wrestling Observer fucking headline email, breaking news, Brock, fucking WWE title change. I'm like, okay, so they obviously switched the title. And then I accidentally pushed my YouTube fucking thing, and some fuck has Brock with the title belt and a big smile. So obviously, in this day and fucking age, if you're trying to tape something and watch it later, you're playing Russian roulette with your mind as far as seeing things uh, as a surprise. Now, granted, this was probably the most see-through surprise ever. Once, unfortunately, Roman Reigns tested positive for COVID, and hoping that he's better soon. And in all seriousness, all wrestling stuff aside, hopes for Roman Reigns to get through this, Joe, so to speak. Hope he gets through this goddamn thing soon. The WWE has been a little fast and loose with protocol, it seems. I mean, that's not just me, but they seem to have a lot of outbursts. They don't seem to be taking this thing as quite as seriously as they should. Thanks for your feedback there. And yeah, thank you. I'm not sure what all that means. VUMONG. I'm not sure if those abbreviations mean something or not, but thanks for your feedback. Feel free to spell those words out because if those are acronyms that the kids are saying these days, I don't know what the fuck it means, to be honest. VUMONG. I'm going to be thinking about that all fucking day. What does VUMONG mean? But anyway, thanks. So, moving forth, once they announced, Roman Reigns announced, and the question was from Shane McKenna of Wrestling Fans. His point blank question was, Mike, when do you think it was decided that Brock Lesnar would win the title, the WWE title? And so that's Shane's question. When do I think it was decided? I think it all came together pretty quickly. I mean, I wasn't there, obviously. This is all speculative. But I kind of trust the story that Roman, I think he legitimately tested positive for COVID. And once that happened, they were in a situation where there wasn't really time to get a substitute for Roman. They didn't necessarily want to strip him of the Universal title. They didn't necessarily want to put somebody else in the ring. I don't think they have a heavy hitter like a Braun Strowman would be perfect to fill in that spot, but they didn't have him available because they've fired him or released him. Undertaker's no longer able to wrestle. Armand checking in. Good to see you in the New Year, Mike. Was there any fireworks or anything in your location? Dublin had sweet fireworks. Yeah, we had Jacksonville had the whole city of Jacksonville. I think just the citizens were letting off fireworks. I didn't really because I grew up in the Virginia and Rhode Island to a lesser extent. We only had fireworks for the 4th of July, by my memory. Here in Jacksonville, Florida, apparently it's fucking St. Patrick's Day. There's fireworks. They're telling me that there's going to be fireworks on Martin Luther King Jr. Day, President's Day, Groundhog Day, Mother's Day. All the fucking holidays here have fireworks. Happy 2022, bud. Thanks for doing this topic. Well, Shane, you had requested, buddy, so I took the time to come out here. I'm in the Slows parking lot, to do this topic. So when Shane was asking the question, which I was getting to the answer, when do I think they made the decision? I'm actually just trusting the story, trusting the narrative. I don't think it's that too much out of the question to think Roman tested positive. He probably, took the test earlier that day, noon or 11 a.m., something like that. And then they got the results and it said positive. Now, just because he tested positive doesn't necessarily means he has it. Remember that, and I'm going to get to that in a second. Um, but once he tested positive, I think they just said, "What do we do?" And they didn't have time to call in a substitute. Sid Vicious is not available. I mean, who? What are you going to do? You just take the guy that's there, Brock, who they've signed for these limited dates. That they typically sign Brock. He's not under a normal contract. So once he's committed to be there, they have to do something with him. They don't have a worthy opponent for Brock, someone that he'd be comfortable working with in a one-on-one match. They put him in this 6-man match. It's an 8-minute match, 5-man match. Sorry, they put him in the 5-man match, and rather predictably, once they put Brock's image in the center of the graphic, when they have the 5 wrestlers lined up and Brock is in the center and he's a challenger, why isn't Big E, in the center? I mean, fuck, he's the defending champion. Why can't he be in the center for his title loss? And once Big E came out to the ring, let's be honest, he had the look of a jobber on his face. He knew he was losing the title, and he did. And thoughts about the match? I don't know. It seemed like a very quick. It was an 8-minute match. Everyone did their high spots, all the quick counts, all the bullshit. I did like the hunt of Lashley hunting Brock. I thought that was interesting. I thought it was good that, they're building a storyline within the confines of the match that, as far as I can remember, Lashley was always getting the advantage over Brock in this 5-man match. Big E eating the pin kind of leads you to believe that that's a finite end of Big E's main event run for now. Not to say that he couldn't be brought back into it, but like Kofi a couple of years ago, once Kofi bit it to Brock, I guess like Brock Lesnar is the New Day killer. Now Brock has to just go and be Xavier Woods and win the King of the Ring or whatever the fuck. Other matches on this show, and let me get to the thing about Corey Graves discussing Roman Reigns. I did like, not Corey Graves, the other guy, Pat McAfee. I did like McAfee's kind of anger with COVID in general. I thought that was good at the beginning of the show. And I did like, because McAfee sounds like he actually gives a shit. And McAfee kind of makes Michael Cole more palatable because McAfee feels kind of genuine and off the cuff and enthusiastic. And Michael Cole continues to sound like a robot that he's sounded like for 20 fucking years. He's horrible. He's god awful. And nobody's going to miss Michael Cole when he goes away. Am I right, gentlemen? As far as what McAfee said, it was either McAfee or Graves. I think it was McAfee said that Roman Reigns has COVID. Now, here's the thing, folks. You ready? We don't know if Roman Reigns actually has COVID. We know he tested positive for COVID. What's the difference, you might be saying? We've seen several times when these tests are inaccurate. We have the tests. We like the tests. We depend on the tests. But there's a certain percentage, whether it's 5%, 10%, whatever the fuck. There's been more than one case of people testing positive or negative for COVID, and those results being wrong when taking another test. So I think the View thing, remember Kamala Harris, the vice president, was on the View 3 or 4 or 5 months ago, and they, yanked a couple of the co-hosts off the show. It was this whole big thing that a couple of women tested positive for COVID on the View. Turns out they didn't fucking have it. The test results were wrong. So I'm still a proponent of the testing. I'm still a proponent of the masking, the vaccines, all that good stuff. But this is just human error, folks. This is just stuff that we're dealing with. So when I believe it was McAfee, it could have been Corey, but I believe it was McAfee, said that Roman Reigns has COVID, I took exception to that because he tested positive for COVID. We don't necessarily know that he actually has it. And I take exception to shit like that. Maybe other people don't give a fuck. It reminds me of a situation that irritated me recently. I don't want to get into the whole damn thing, but essentially a person in the wrestling community who died at a young age, someone had reported, a friend of theirs, supposedly a friend, or I guess a friend, reported, and it was also a friend of mine, the person, and reported that the guy committed suicide. Well, guess what? That was not proven. Well, I pointed that out to this other individual. Hey, it's not proven he committed suicide. Well, You know, I'm pretty sure he did because he was talking suicidal. Well, asshole, that's not the same fucking thing. You're not the goddamn mortician. You're not the goddamn chief of police making these decisions. So keep your fucking opinion to your goddamn self when it comes to somebody's way of death. But idiots and assholes abound in the world, and it's also a generational thing. My generations and prior generations, if someone were to commit suicide, there's a bit of a stigma to that, a bit of a thing where you don't want people thinking you committed suicide unless you really did. And a lot of people are just idiots and don't understand that. Hi, Sammy. How's it going, buddy? I never know if people are hopping into these live streams while I'm in the middle of some anger rant. Like I was just talking about suicide, Sammy. So I don't know. Just the way that things are covered is my point, Sammy. That they reported last night on this WWE pay-per-view that Roman Reigns had COVID. Well, my point was he's tested positive for COVID, but we don't know if he actually has it because these tests have a pretty fair amount of discrepancies, a pretty fair amount of non-accurate results. And I'm not pissing on the tests or any of that shit. I'm not pissing on the science. I'm just saying it's true. So people have to be more careful with their fucking words. But a lot of people don't do that because they're not that fucking intelligent, right, Sammy? So the next thing we're going to discuss, the rest of the pay-per-view, I'll sum it up. The New Day, fucking Usos match, business as usual for those guys. High-flying action, breaking up pins, all that shit. Another fucking match we didn't need, but it was fine. The Usos retain. What else? The Miz and Edge match was probably the match of the night. I mean, as far as like I don't know, the Beth Phoenix thing, she looked very silly to become. It's like, oh no, she's gonna come out and cut up oranges for the fucking kids soccer team. Here comes Beth Phoenix. Oh boy. I mean, they played her music wrong. Like, you know, she was on camera and then they played her music like a couple of beats later. So usually it goes the opposite way. I mean, usually they play the music first, then you see the wrestler. Not you see the wrestler and then 1, 2, 3. Oh, here's the music. She looked weird, to be honest with you. She looked like an angry soccer mom. But beyond that, that was probably the match of the night. What else? You guys can feel free to add more comments and questions. What else happened on this big show? The Liv Morgan thing, once again, makes very little sense. Why are we getting these multiple Liv Morgan title matches? And why is this title chase continuing if there's not a payoff of this chick actually winning the title? And furthermore, she just gets beat clean last night. What's the point in that? I mean, she looks great. Can't argue that she's a gorgeous female. She's beautiful, but she's losing, so who cares? Speaking of which, this Tony Storm thing, I guess I didn't put that in the thing, but this is part of the wrestling world. This is your chance, gentlemen, if you have wrestling world comments. Tony Storm quitting WWE. I just listened to Dave Meltzer talk about it with Brian Alvarez, and Meltzer made a reference to Jack Briscoe. And I'm like, dude, no one's going to get that fucking reference, but I got it. So Tony Storm leaving. I guess she was in between shows in Baltimore to DC. I guess something like maybe the MCI Center to the Baltimore Arena, something like that. And she was doing these triangle matches, and she left. Three-way matches, I guess, with Sasha and Charlotte. And people might be wondering, well, how could she leave? She's featured in the main event with Charlotte. Well, apparently she's been taking pies to the face and not feeling good about it. And I think it's good for her. I mean, I think some of these wrestlers are kind of wising up that if they're going to be used like idiots and treated like morons, and she doesn't want what happened to Karrion Kross to happen to her. She's not there to service these people. You know, she's not there to service Charlotte. And yes, this is very interesting because the wrestling world, we know that it's predetermined outcomes and so forth. And the wrestlers, maybe you're saying, should they not have pride? Well, I think some of them do have pride. And I think the ones, you know, that are intelligent, like Tony Storm is, she sees that Keith Lee was humiliated and degraded and bear-catted. And she sees that Karrion Kross was demolition crossed. And she doesn't want that to happen to her. And it already started to with the pies to the fucking face. You don't get a baby face over by putting pies in their hair, in their face. Now you might be saying, well, gee whiz, Mike, she got a pie on Charlotte's face. Well, She actually kind of botched the pie. I watched all these goddamn pie shots today just to prepare for this fucking rant. And basically, she fucking got half the pie on Charlotte's face. The point is, nobody should be getting pies in the fucking face in 2021. It's ridiculous. It's childish. It's immature. Speaking of which, on that WWE podcast, or fucking whatever they call it now, they finally changed the name. They're not calling it pay-per-views anymore. They're calling them premium events. So I was suggesting network specials for a while for all these goddamn shows, the Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, Survivor Series. I was suggesting network specials, but now, you know, the people in the USA don't have the network. They have the Peacock, so they called it premium specials. Okay. So this fucking premium special, whatever the fuck, what am I trying to remember here? Oh, during the Miz and Edge match, the female ref, what's her name, Jessica, was doing a pretty good job. I think her name was Jessica Carr, doing a good job with the reffing, and she started to yell at the Miz for something, and she said, "You can't do that," because the Miz was like putting his feet on the ropes trying to get a pin. And then the crowd started, she was so loud, the crowd started chanting, "You can't do that, you can't do that." And they kind of panned to the crowd, and they showed like a small kid, maybe 7 or 8 years old. You know, hi Carl, how's it going, buddy? They show this child, this 7 or 8 year old child chanting, "You can't do that, you can't do that." And then it just occurred to me that this WWE truly is the idiot show. It truly is the child show. Yes, I'm fucking watching it because I'm here monitoring for your enjoyment and giving you my feedback. But I mean, when they show this audience and they're chanting, "You can't do that, you can't do that," I'm like, this is the idiot wrestling. This is the child's wrestling. This is the morons wrestling. It's not the intelligent wrestling, but that's okay. What else happened on this show? The tag team I discussed, the women's match I discussed, and so on and so forth, and so on and so forth. When do I think they made to answer Shane's question? I think they made it the night of, buddy. I think basically what happened is Junior McMahon or Triple H, or probably just Junior, once he found out that Roman wasn't going to be there, they felt the need to give the fans something as a make good. And what better way to give them a make good than to have Brock Lesnar win the title? And anything going on with Big E and Seth Rollins, which was pretty uninspired anyway, it just got thrown out the window. And Big E's title reign is done. And I think that what they do with the WWE, these guys now, is they give people a chance, but not really, because they don't really get behind them. I mean, they bury you while they're pushing you at the same time, which it doesn't seem to make sense, but it's a pattern of behavior with the WWE where they're pushing guys, they're promoting guys with this, and women too, but at the same time, they're kind of burying them. If you look at the Liv Morgan thing, she's getting buried and she's getting pushed. I even said that about Becky Lynch a couple of years ago. When she had the leg injury going to the WrestleMania match against Ronda Rousey and Charlotte, and they were doing this stupid leg injury with Becky, I said, they're burying her alive is what I called it. Like, they're pushing her. She's going to win the title, but they're making her less than with this stupid leg injury. And they continue to do that. Why, we've been through this before, why it's a program, why it's a promotion not worth watching. If you watch my AEW clips from this past week, the last week of 2021, you see this the wonderful Penelope Ford moonsault. I told you that fucking match was hot, that women's brawl. And you know what I mean? Here's a good question. How do you create new megastars these days? It's the same formula of going back to using the old. Even I can't be behind the new lads. Well, here's the question, Ahmad, and great point. Are you discussing strictly WWE, or are you discussing other promotions such as AEW or anybody else? But how do you create new megastars these days? Here's the rub, buddy. First of all, you loosen the reins, so to speak. You loosen the grip on these talents. And for instance, the Twitch and the social media, they had a guy there, Matt Cardona, years ago, Mr. Woo Woo, you know it. And he was doing the internet wrestling title, and he was doing his action figure stuff and all that stuff. He was getting over organically on his own, connecting with the fans through social media, which the WWE didn't approve of because they weren't making money for it. In fact, they probably punished Cardona by having him lose more than he should have, because They didn't like the fact that he was actually taking the ball and getting over on his own. So the point is, whenever someone really gets over, not every single time, but a lot of times, it's because there's something special about that talent that connects directly with the audience. But the WWE doesn't like that anymore because they don't want anyone being bigger than the WWE. They don't want any Hulk Hogan's. They don't want any Dwayne Johnson's, The Rock. They don't want any Stone Cold Steve Austin's. They don't want any Bruno Sammartino's. They don't want anybody exceeding the level of a Drew McIntyre. And when you say, well, gee, what was wrong with Drew McIntyre? Well, Drew McIntyre, one WrestleMania, he's beating, Brock Lesnar. I beat Brock Lesnar, beating him right in the middle of the ring at WrestleMania. The next WrestleMania, he's in the very first match submitting to Bobby Lashley. I mean, that's how they do it. They cut your fucking balls off. They put you to a certain point, and then they cut your goddamn balls off. I'm not sure what you mean, Sammy. You have to explain, buddy. I get the what. I mean, you're doing the what chant, the Steve Austin. So there you go. The point is, how do you make the megastars? My opinion, you allow the wrestlers to be human. You allow them to do their Twitches, their fucking live streams. You allow them to do the Xavier Woods up, down crap. All that stuff. Whether I'm watching it and enjoying it or not, a lot of people do like that stuff. But the WWE just want to be so controlling that they don't allow that to happen. Finn Balor could have gotten over bigger, but they, they don't allow it. Look, remember when Kevin Owens was doing the stunner 2 years ago, like the summer of 2019 or something like that? Kevin Owens was getting the Stone Cold Stunner over with Shane McMahon. Well, I didn't think that was that great. I thought it was crap, but the fans liked it, but they stopped doing it. Do you think we'll ever get another Austin, Sting, or Goldberg again? Oh, yeah, I think so. I mean, it may not happen in a way, see, like right there, Sting and Goldberg, or, you know what I mean? Sting, Goldberg, and Austin, they're all great talents. I mean, I guess I was thinking, you're not saying The Rock or Hogan. I mean, I would put Austin probably right there with Hogan and The Rock, bigger than both of them. And then you got to think of Andre of a prior generation. But do I think we'll ever get another? Yeah, I think so. I mean, but I don't know if it's going to come from WWE. And Sting and Goldberg really made their names in WCW. But I think there will be somebody who breaks through eventually. And you could almost make a point that Becky Lynch did to an extent a couple of years ago. My eye's driving me nuts, by the way. That's why I look like fucking Popeye. I think it's possible, Ahmed, but it might come from someone else. It might come from AEW. I mean, it's not going to be Omega. I mean, I think he's injured, and Moxley or CM. I mean, I don't know. It's a good question. I don't really have a great answer. Do I think it'll happen in our lifetime? Yes. Do I see anybody that's on the cusp of being that huge this minute? Off the top of my head, I don't. Just being honest, buddy. Sammy's got his what chant going on. Thanks, Sammy. As far as anything else, now what was I going to talk about? The big Swole controversy, folks. I didn't realize that I was kind of getting in the middle of this thing yesterday. I got on fucking Twitter and I just posted around my AEW year in review for Monty and the Pharaoh YouTube channel, which I also have a playlist here of my AEW apologist rants. Over 1,000 views for the most recent one, 1,600, which was nice, on Monty and the Pharaoh YouTube channel, the AEW apologist. But I'm on fucking social media, and someone, I put my post up, and someone makes a derogatory comment about me, first of all, which was insulting. Some asshole piece of shit prick with no goddamn life trying to insult me. And then he's commenting that AEW is a racist company. And I really didn't know what was going on until today. So apparently this controversy, I guess, was a week ago, and it's coming up on a week ago or whatever the fuck. And it's this controversy over Big Swole, who's a former AEW talent. I believe she wrestled a pay-per-view match, a dentist chair match against Britt Baker on one, Dr. Britt Baker on one pay-per-view. But apparently Big Swole was on her podcast, Swole World, which I never heard of until now. And she said something about diversity in AEW and representation. And then Tony Khan kind of shot back with a tweet, and he basically put over himself somebody named Mega, who I still haven't figured out who Mega is in AEW. I tried to find it, couldn't find it. And he put over a handful of AEW talents as people of color. And then he said something about I fired Big Swole because I didn't think her wrestling was good enough. And then he said, watch the women's hardcore match tonight. And he put a hashtag. So apparently this got a big whole sticker-me-do. Leo Rush, a contracted AEW talent, of course, who found a home after not getting along in WWE. He took exception to it. And then, of course, later on, he backtracked on that once he realized he didn't want to lose his paycheck. And what are my thoughts? I mean, I guess my thoughts are all over the place. I mean, I think anytime you as an individual, not just you or me or anyone, Swole in this case, if things aren't working well for you, it's very easy to kind of see a pattern of prejudice or discrimination against, like, rather than just say, well, I guess they didn't think I was good enough, you know, this being Swole, because this other chick, Jade Cargill, who's bigger than me and more muscular and has a bigger presence, she's doing quite well for herself. Instead of Big Swole thinking that way, like, maybe if I was 5 inches taller and had a bigger, you know, presence, filled up a room better, I'd be getting pushed more in AEW, and maybe I was boring and my name was stupid. You know, and she doesn't think that way. She just thinks that, oh, we need better representation. Basically, she needs to be representing people. Well, maybe people don't give a fuck about you, Big Swole. That's the reality. I mean, and I made a little comment today on the good old Facebook. I said, and Twitter, Angry Wrestling Fan, Mikey Messier on Twitter, I said, does anyone remember the high demand for Big Swole t-shirts and the random chants of "We Want Swole" in arenas throughout the country? Neither do I. The point is, she was not over. She wasn't getting over. They at one point had some other Swole, like Little Swole or Mama Swole. Somebody else came in a Swole name. That person was a better wrestler, from I remember, like the Little Swole or the Medium Swole. She was better than the original Big Swole. She also was using a name that's been used before, back in the WCW days of who's the guy, Phenomenon, Master P, the No Limit Soldiers. There was a Big Swole in that group. So I mean, she's using a name that was used by somebody else. I'm sorry, but nobody gave a fuck about you, Big Swole. I mean, nobody really cared. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like, you know, she's Mickey Rourke with the fucking at the wrestling convention, you know, with Evan Ginsberg and the 8 people in the room. You know what I mean? Nobody cares about you, Big Swole. Nobody gives a fuck. And it's just a cruel, sad reality. And hey, look, I mean, she was on TV. She got the shine. She's been on more AEW wrestling shows than I am, and I'm more talented, at least verbally, than Swole, even with one eye. So, I mean, what the fuck, Swole? Sorry, nobody cares. Nobody gives a fuck. You're not that goddamn good. And that's it. You know, what else can I say? I mean, if she was that good, we would give a shit. But she's not, so we don't. What the fuck? So now all the controversy after, I think, you know, Tony Khan, sometimes I think he plays into his Impact Wrestling character of the jerky promoter guy. But I think he was just being honest. He was just saying, Swole, you know, I didn't like her wrestling. She was not a good talent. I don't think I haven't heard anything of her being a backstage pain in the ass. It's the lowest of the low to pull the race card when it may not be a racial attack. If you're not getting over, you're not good enough. This is coming from me as a minority in my own country of Ireland. Well, thank you, Ahmad. Good point. And that's my point, too. And look, I get it. Look, if you're talking about Kamala, you know, flapping his belly in 1986, or the Wild Samoans eating live chickens on TV, that's a different story as far as representation. I don't see AEW doing that right now. But if people have points, they can tell me. And yes, you know, they say, well, there's never been a singles person of color AEW champion. Well, unless you take the case of what's her name? Nia Rose, or what's it? God, I'm getting the names mixed up. My eyes injuring me. The woman's the transgender, Native American, the native beast, Nyla Rose is, I believe, half African American, half Native American, and transgender. So that covers a lot of bases, doesn't it? But of course, nope. We need Swole to be the women's champion. Well, you don't, because she's not good. Nobody gives a fuck. So show me someone, look, I was pulling for Jay Lethal to win the TNT title when he first came in to beat Sammy. I thought that could have been good. It probably would have gotten more heat, to be honest with you, if Lethal came in, beat Sammy on night one, had the title for a month, and then lost to Cody. That would have been better booking, to be honest with you, than just having Cody beat Sammy like he did. So that's my point. So I don't know. I will keep an eye on it, though. I will keep an eye on this. And someone kind of on Facebook or Twitter wisely commented that, this whole controversy with Tony Khan and Swole, it's going to help Jade Cargill because now she'll win the women's TNT title, which she's in the finals for. I was actually pulling for Thunder Rosa to win that match, the semifinal, and then Thunder Rosa to beat Ruby Soho in the finals. Now, so if it's down to Ruby Soho, who's a lesbian, against the African American Jade Cargill, well, somebody's going to win, right? There's going to be some representation there. That's great. What else? So I don't know. These are all my fucking wrestling thoughts. Wrestling's a strange world, gentlemen, as we know, because it's a sensitive world, but it's like supposed to be, in my opinion, folks. This is the Flair and Dusty bleeding. You know what I mean? Joe Frazier, Starrcade 84, Dusty Rhodes, Blood, Ric Flair. That's pro wrestling to me. This shit about tweets and, oh my God, this asshole reacts to that asshole reacting to that asshole. That's not pro wrestling to me. That's modern day fuck wrestling. I'm talking about the good old days of wrestling. I might start doing more memory videos. That was requested for me. Personal wrestling memories. All the wrestling matches I've been to throughout my life. I have some original photographs. I might be doing more videos of just fucking house shows and experiences I had rather than commenting on this modern day crap. I put some goddamn suntan lotion in my fucking eyes, apparently, because I'm going fucking nuts. So anyway, gentlemen, I think I'm going to wrap this up. Thanks for participating, Ahmed. Sammy, Carl was in the house. Carl said some nice things. And Shane, of course. This guy, I'm not sure what that means, but I appreciate if anyone can translate that earlier comment. Okay, gentlemen, final call for comments. If not, I'm going to sign off. Subscribe to Mike Messier YouTube channel. Final call for comments, gentlemen, and have a great day. If there's any requests for videos, specific wrestling topics, especially from the past, just things in the 80s and 90s and even 2000s, but that's it. Okay, thank you, gentlemen. Make sure you buy my book, A Distance from Avalon, Fight or Play Basketball. They're all on Amazon, Mike Messier. Click the links in the descriptions and watch all the other videos. All my AEW videos are up. Thank you. Oh, my eye.